Nickie Aiken to move the motion.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. It is a great pleasure to serve under your chairmanship. I'm grateful that I have been able to secure this debate to discuss the support for the homeless as we head into Christmas and the winter months. And I'm delighted that so many honourable members are keen to take part in this debate and represent the concerns of their constituents. I hope I speak for all of us when I say that the issues of rough sleeping and homelessness are issues that all of us, no matter what our political affiliation, wish to see solved. We all aspire for the same end goal, to see homelessness assigned to the history books. And I'm extremely proud that one of this government's main priorities is to end rough sleeping by 2024. As honourable members will be aware, the issues surrounding rough sleeping and homelessness are acute in central London, and particularly in my constituency of the Cities of London and Westminster. You only have to step outside this building to witness the problems and the scale of the challenge we face. I receive regular correspondence from businesses and residents concerned for the welfare of rough sleepers. So today, I wish to focus my concern on the first stages of supporting those sleeping rough on the streets and into a bed and the right support environment. I'm sure other colleagues may wish to address later stages of the journey, moving individuals into settled accommodation and so on. But for me and my constituents, the major concern is supporting people off the streets in the first place. I think it's important that we understand the different cohorts of rough sleepers on the streets. And today I speak specifically about Westminster, which sees more rough sleepers than any other borough in the country. The latest overnight count in Westminster took place in November, and it provides a snapshot of the nighttime street population. On count night, Westminster found 242 people sleeping rough. Of those, just under half were UK or Irish nationals. The rest represent a wide range of nationalities, but the substantive remainder were Eastern Europeans. But beyond nationality, there are many causes behind why people find themselves on the street. From my previous experience of being responsible for rough sleeping policy in Westminster, and my long association with charities such as St Mungo's and The Passage, there are generally three main cohorts of rough sleepers in Westminster. Firstly, those suffering with acute mental health or addiction issues. They are often mistrustful of the support that is offered, having been let down by society throughout their lives, and they refuse to engage with outreach teams. The second cohort is economic migrants, who may choose to sleep outside or in a tent to save their earnings, which they send back to their families. They often have no recourse to public funds due to their nationality, so help from local authorities elude them anyway. The third cohort is those that are suffering at the hands of gangmasters as modern-day slaves. Some will have been brought here against their will, to beg, forced into prostitution, or to commit crime. Many are brought here under false pretences and promises of accommodation, only for that not to materialise. Madam Chairman, allow me to outline what support I believe is needed to be considered if we are to end rough sleeping for good. First, for those that are suffering from mental health and addiction issues. I feel the answer is clear. We need to offer greater social care and specialist medical support alongside the safety of a bed. I am proud that Westminster Council has over 400 beds for rough sleepers on any given night. However, speaking in depth with the Council and charities involved, it is now clear to me that what is needed is sustained and long-term support attached to that bed. The addiction counsellor, the psychiatric help, the medical support for those who have suffered after years of sleeping rough. The current pandemic has shown that when central and local governments work together, much can be achieved. During the first lockdown, the Everyone In strategy saw 90% of those on the street brought in, and with integrated services available, many accepted the mental health and addiction help provided as part of the COVID-19 support. A bed is one thing, but without the support services attached, it won't change much for those in desperate need. I'm therefore delighted that the government clearly understands the importance of tackling mental health and addiction. The extra help for rough sleepers with dependency issues announced this week, including a £1.1 million to Westminster for addiction support, clearly shows ministers now understand the importance of tackling the causes of why so many find themselves on the street. But if we are to end rough sleeping, this funding must continue. Tackling the causes of rough sleeping takes long-term, sustainable funding. Secondly, Madam Chairman, if the government is to achieve its goal of ending rough sleeping, it must also repeal the Vagrancy Act. Much has been spoken about repealing this out-of-date legislation, but it is now time for action. The Vagrancy Act, established in 1824, is simply not fit for purpose. It fails to address the acute 21st century problems that public sector agencies and charities are working tirelessly to deal with amongst the street population. Rather than seek to help those on the street, the Vagrancy Act criminalises them. But sadly, in some desperate cases, the Vagrancy Act is the last resort to take people off the street and into the support they need, albeit requiring police intervention. In its place, I would like to see legislation that allows for assertive outreach, that puts protection, not criminality, at its heart. We know that so many on the street present with complex needs and do not have the mental health capacity to make the decision for their own well-being to accept the help on offer. Does the woman sleeping in an underpass not far from here with maggots growing out of her leg, but who consistently refuses help to come inside, really have the mental capacity? Has the time come to overhaul the mental health threshold for those on the street, to allow outreach workers to make the decision on their behalf? The alternative is the status quo, which allows people to remain on the street, failing to address their serious mental health problems. I am not a great believer in state intervention. However, if my son or daughter was on the street with serious addiction or mental health problems, I would want to know that society has the levers available to make the decision for them, for their own well-being and possibly to save their life.
Will the Honourable Lady give way?
Oh.
Thank you very much for giving way. I didn't she'd agree, but I recall sitting outside Charing Cross Station watching a guy drink water from a puddle like a dog, and I got up to several thousand people who passed him before anyone did anything about it. And likewise, kids who in summer, have a bit of a party, taking loads of drugs. The weather changes, they're addicted. They need to be got off the streets before what starts as a party ends as a nightmare.
Thank you, and I completely agree with my right honourable friend. Madam Chairman, to ensure everyone can speak in this debate, I do not have time to go into detail deserved in the discussions on the other issues faced by the economic migrants and modern-day slaves who also find themselves on the street, but allow me to turn to them very briefly. Their issues are equally as complex as those dealing with health and addiction issues, particularly as agencies are often hampered in the support they can offer, as foreign nationals may not have access to public funds. To help these cohorts requires much greater coordination across government between the Home Office, MHCLG and local authorities. In the case of modern slaves, these people desperately need our support. But the difficulties in law are how to criminalise their gang masters without criminalising those who have been trafficked onto our streets. What support or help should we offer them? Would they like to return home? Should we help them return home? These matters can only be truly addressed by a deeper and honest conversation across government, local authorities and the charity sector. For too long, the elephant in the room has been the no recourse to public funds issue, and whether to suspend it or not. A difficult decision, I recognise, but one that does need addressing. Madam Chairman, As I have highlighted today, the issues surrounding rough sleeping are complex and there are no easy answers. If we are to achieve the government's laudable aim to end rough sleeping, then greater support for health and addiction issues, a reassessment of both the Vagrancy Act and the no recourse to public fund rules are all required. I recognise and welcome the increased focus and funding the government has provided to local authorities to support rough sleeping this year. It is clearly determined, this government, to end rough sleeping, and I look forward to providing support to ministers to achieve our shared goal. And I look forward to the contributions of other members and the minister's response.